All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi. We are motorsports writers for The Athletic, and we are in two very different places right now because I am at my in-laws' house here in Indianapolis, where I'm staying for the Indy 500 festivities over the next 10 days or whatever. And Jordan is in the old Moonshine Shack. The preserved Shine Shack. Is that what it's called?
The old Shine Shack. They got some moonshine in here, which you probably need after staying with your in-laws for 10 days. So I'm sorry.
Okay, they can't hear that right now. I hope so. I mean, I'm in their house and it's 11 something p.m. at night. So let's just be nice here, Jordan. But
do you get along with them,
Jordan? Let's talk about some other things like where you are right now, North Wilkesboro. You find yourself in yet another melee. You are Team Chaos, and you have done it again with I don't know if this is we don't need to ask you to give us the tape from like the Harvick Chase Elliott thing, because you were right there this time with the Ricky Stenhouse Kyle Busch thing, which is what people will be talking about after this one more than the race itself. So what did you see? Tell us that whole scene there.
Do you want to set it up first and we talk about the contact, and then I'll take you when Kyle get out of his car?
Sure. I mean,
let's do that.
Lap one of the race, right? Like it looks like, Stenhouse went 3 wide middle on Kyle. Kyle hits the wall. Now, it seemed like Kyle thought that Stenhouse put him in the wall, judging by what he said. Stenhouse obviously said, "I never touched you," which is what I felt like is what happened. Now, some people on X said, well, he ran him up into the wall. I didn't even really get that necessarily. I'm not really sure. I didn't really feel like Stenhouse did anything particularly wrong, especially in an all-star race where you have to go. Passing is probably going to be hard. And so, yeah, he, makes a 3 wide middle and they keep racing. But I thought Kyle hit the wall himself. Again, he didn't feel that way. So he wrecks Stenhouse on purpose, clearly, and destroys Stenhouse car on the second lap of the race. Then, because it's North Wilkesboro and it's old school and there's no tunnel, Stenhouse can't leave. There's nowhere to go. It's not even like
no bridge, too. No bridge, no tunnel, no escape.
You're no escape. They close it. You're locked in. Everybody that's in the infield's locked in the infield. So Stenhouse literally cannot leave. You can't say to NASCAR, can you open the backstretch gate? He cannot leave. So He's got nowhere to go. So he talks to you guys. The media says, oh, I'm going to fight him after the race, basically. And sure enough, you see in your video there, and I know we'll back up for a second, but he is in a meme-worthy pose, just leaning against the ropes, waiting for Kyle Busch to walk up. But what was it? Take us through after Kyle gets out of his car. Then what happens?
Yeah, I mean, so the story is Kyle Busch. I mean, the race was the race. It wasn't the most exciting. The story is Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Is Ricky. We a lot of times drivers don't really follow through on their threats, right? That tends to be the case. And we didn't know where this was going to be. So the idea was go to Kyle Busch, watch Kyle Busch. If something is going to happen, Ricky's going to come to him, right? More than likely. So get out of it says Kyle pulls down pit road, stops. I noticed NASCAR security is there, which is very unusual because you very rarely will see NASCAR security position itself close to a driver. Very, very rarely. Like something has to be going on for that to happen. So immediately you're like, okay, they're aware. They're aware that something might happen here. And at the same time, as Kyle's getting out of your car, I'm kind of, your head's on a swivel. You're looking, is Ricky going to come? Where is Ricky going to jump out somewhere? How's this going to go? Kyle gets done, gets out of his race car, and isn't going to stand around and talk. Like he is making a beeline for his hauler. Coincidentally, by the way, the JTG hauler and Kyle's hauler are basically next door. There's like one hauler separating them or something. So they're like right there, which factors into this as well. And so Kyle starts walking down pit road at a pretty good clip. Obviously he doesn't appear to be happy. Goes around the corner to pit road, into the garage. And he's walking down, and he's towards the back of the garage too. And so he's walking, and I'm right behind him as we walk. And I'm kind of, again, keeping my head around, looking around, saying, is Ricky going to come anywhere? What's going on here? Is this going to be, much ado about nothing? And then as we kind of come around and you see the 8 hauler for the first time, in the distance, you see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. just like coolly, just like leaning on the hauler gate. And you're like, oh, okay. He's serious here. Like there is going to be some words exchange or something. You don't know at this time. And he confronted him. And that is where, if you look on social media, you check out our story in The Athletic, that is where the tape picks up. And he confronts Kyle Busch. They exchange some words. A punch was thrown, and then a brawl erupts.
Would you like to do another dramatic reading, Jordan? I tried transcribing this. If you,
I mean, it's Teardown Dinner Theater. Why would we not, Jeff?
Okay. Well, do you want to be Ricky or Kyle? You can pick.
Again, I defer to you. What would you rather be?
I can be Kyle this time. I can be Kyle.
Okay. All right. So I am Ricky.
Right. Yes, and I don't have this. Here's the bad thing about this is it looked like there was some juicy stuff at the very end too when Kyle's back on the hauler.
Yeah.
And I only have the very end of that. Some other people look like they got up there, but I didn't get the answers in time for this podcast. So
can we say one more thing here? Because we're kind of going over this really quick. There was a part there. So Kyle shouts at Ricky. He's standing on top of the hauler. Ricky's off to the side. And then Kyle comes underneath the hauler gate. Like I thought we were going to have a sequel. Mm-hmm. Like I thought he was going to go after Ricky again.
Yeah, but he was just leaving. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm Kyle.
You're Kyle.
Okay.
I'm Ricky.
Remember, don't swear.
I don't think Ricky swears here, does he?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're the one who's got to watch your language there, Mr. Gluck.
Okay. All right.
All right. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Scene. What was that?
Something. I don't know.
Where?
Coming off of 2. You wrecked my ass off of 2.
You hit the fence yourself. I didn't touch you.
Really?
Go back and watch the replay. I did not touch you. Not once.
We all hit each other.
You hit the fence and then you hit me.
I mean, I don't believe it, but if that's what happened.
Go back and watch it.
I flinched too early on I blew my line. I flinched one line too early. Anyway, so then seeing the scuffle occurs, then Ricky is on the ground, and you have the next line.
What's it? Dad, can you get my dad?
Because Ricky Stenhouse Sr. has gone over to confront Kyle Busch, and Ricky Stenhouse Sr. or maybe he goes by Rick actually, but sorry. Anyway, he's all
calling him Dad.
He's in the middle of it with Kyle. Kyle punches him twice in the face, at least twice. It seemed like Kyle was pretty mad about that. I think Stenhouse Sr. was trying to just break it up. So then you hear.
I don't think Stenhouse Sr. was trying to break it up.
He was trying to hold him back. I think he was trying to hold him back, not go after Kyle. If you look at it.
Yeah, but then he went after Kyle.
Right. No, I think when he was going after Kyle, he's trying to keep him back from his son, I think.
I don't know.
He wasn't punching Kyle. That's okay.
I think I did see one. I don't know. I think I saw. I don't know.
You hear somebody's yelling. I think it's probably Ricky, yelling at, Dad kind of thing.
Yeah, and Ricky's on like a pile of tires. Like he's got a crewman member on top of him, and he's screaming, "Dad, Dad!" And I'm like, "What?" No,
but so after that, so then Ricky Stenhouse Sr. says, "I ain't on him, and I had my glasses on."
Yeah.
So then there's the scene when then Kyle gets back up on the hauler. There's some more crew guy altercation, and this is my favorite part. This is my favorite line. They're yelling, and Kyle goes, "Bring it! I don't give an F. I suck just as bad as you. Let's go."
And that is when he got underneath the hauler. He climbed underneath, and then you're like, okay, now we're gonna have the round 2.
Right.
And so there are so many little things. Like I've gone back and watched this a few times. There are so many little things about this I love. One is like it's almost cinematic watching Kyle walk around the corner like to the hauler, and then like Ricky's just leaning there, like just waiting, like calm as can be. That is a great moment. Ricky on the ground screaming, "Dad, Dad." And then Ricky's dad being in the middle of this, and then to your point, like and then the crew members like shoving each other, like one of the RCR crew members like threw one of the JTG crew members off, like get out of my gate. It's like he threw him like a bag of groceries at Kroger. And then the other part was the Kyle scene where like Kyle screams at him like we both suck.
Yeah,
And the crew chiefs are in the middle of that too, by the way.
Well, I think the dad part of it for me is like, I'm sure Ricky never thought that his dad would get in the middle of this, right? And all drivers know that when your dad gets in it, the whole fan base, just like the Joey Logano dad thing, or even the Keselowski dad thing from Gateway years ago with Carl, people don't seem to, it's like, oh, not the dads. You don't want your dad fighting for you kind of thing. So I'm sure Ricky was like mortified, being like, dad, and then thinking, but his dad's probably going to get his ass kicked too. So, he's like, he probably didn't want his dad to get beat up by Kyle. So he's like, oh, can somebody get my dad? That kind of thing. Yes, that was quite the moment, especially because it's like, it's not like some of these fights where maybe there's the overhead distant camera shot there, or there's maybe one or two people there or something. This was like the entire media corps, because the race was just whatever. The entire media corps pretty much followed Kyle Busch to see if anything would happen after Ricky said something was going to happen. So like, I don't know how many. I mean, what was there? It's like 20 media people around when that
I have no idea. I was paying no attention to anyone else.
Anyway, yeah, you had a great front row seat. So poor Bob, he gets all jostled around. Then you see his face like frozen like that, because the camera turns on him, his swivel camera. Our friend Davey Siegel from Sirius gets knocked to the ground with Kyle Busch on top of him.
Yeah, he's okay. I checked on him, by the way. He's good.
No blood or anything?
No, he's good.
Okay. I mean, probably his back's going to be, he probably hit something when he fell. But he already changed his X profile picture to a picture of Kyle Busch lying on top of him on top of
Oh, jeez.
Hey, it's these are the great
I mean, it's so good. And this, like, just FYI, this isn't the first time like Stenhouse's dad has kind of been involved, not in a fight, but like a moment, if you will. Remember when Ricky won at Talladega, his first career win, and his dad like hopped a security fence and like ran across the track or something and had to make his way to victory. Yeah, so that was a whole thing. So like, his dad has a way of like sometimes getting involved in these things.
Hey man, I mean, I respect it.
Would your father jump into a fight like this for you?
I mean, my dad is 77, something like that. I don't think that would be a very good idea. He's had 2 knee replacements and 2 hip replacements.
Okay.
So dad, I know he's listening. He watches or listens to every one of these.
Hi, Dad.
Dad, if I'm getting into something with Jordan or whoever, please don't step in. I would definitely be like, can somebody get my dad? I really don't want my dad to.
Okay.
That. So I don't think that'd be a good idea. What about your dad?
Oh, my dad, no. My mom, though. Oh, my mom will be involved in the middle of it, and somebody's getting hurt, and she's going to be doing the hurting. Like, it is, somebody's going to get busted in their mouth, and my mom's coming out swinging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not my mom either, who also listens to this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Neither
my mom likes to make people cry in general. So if she has an opportunity to like start throwing punches, yeah, it's on.
Would you be okay with that, or would you just expect that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that moment, I don't have children, but I feel like if you see your son like involved in something, like it's a natural inclination to get involved, and especially he's passionate. He's been, you go back to Talladega, like he's supportive, like to the hill. Like I get what you're saying. Like you don't want to see your dad do this, but on the other hand, like I don't know how you stay off to the side and be like, oh, I just saw my son got tackled, and I'm, there's the guy that wronged my son and pushed him into the wall. Like, I'm not excusing it, but I understand it.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness that fight happened, because otherwise this would have been a very, I don't know what we would have talked about tires and things like that.
Short track package.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything else you want to say about the, Kyle?
No, I mean, in all honesty, I think
fined or suspended for this.
Stenhouse's dad is going to be, he's going to be suspended, or probably for a week or 2 or something like that.
You think he'll lose his hard card or something?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the MO, right? That's in these instances.
I mean, I think they did that to Tom Logano, but Tom Logano also went down to confront. Was it Biffle?
Harvick.
Was it Harvick? Oh, okay.
Harvick at Pocono.
I thought there was someone with Biffle at Fontana too. No.
I don't remember that one, but I remember the Harvick at Fontana or the Harvick Logano thing at Pocono, and that's where the fire suit came. The joke for the fire suit
Fire
came
suit in the
from.
family
That
thing.
is
I
where
didn't know
he
that was
got.
the Tom Logano one. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, look, the All-Star race, at one point I tweeted, hey, this is better than 80% of the All-Star races. And people are like, what race are you watching? But again, I was saying better than other All-Star races, which have often been quite lackluster. I mean, very bad. So this had a couple good moments. There was that moment when Bell was fighting for the lead and Hamlin comes in there and 3 wide for a minute, and you thought, oh, this is getting good. But largely, when you have a driver lead 199 out of 200 laps, and the one lap that he didn't lead, I think was Kelly Crandall tweeted that it was the lap 100 break, I guess, when Logano had an early pit stall, and so Keselowski had crossed the line first on pit road. Yeah. It was just during a pit stop, so he didn't even really lead the lap.
The pit cycle, yeah.
Logano led every lap, essentially, right? And the other thing is our expectations were kind of high, because we were told that this tire was like this magical new elixir that was going to do wonders. And so everybody's like, oh, is it going to, I mean, what were people saying in the bullpen yesterday? How they thought it was going to wear out for like 30 laps or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, people thought it was going to be 4 to 5 tenths, a lap difference, over about 30, after about 30 laps or so, 40 laps, and it was going to be a game changer. And it was really going to differentiate this race from a year ago's race where somebody ran away from it and kind of dominated. And that didn't happen. Like, there was no fall off really in the tire. And that's the big thing, is that option tire. There was nothing gained from it. There was nothing that changed anything. There was no difference maker. And that was not what this was supposed to be. This was supposed to be a difference in an option where, late in a race, if a guy wants to be aggressive and go for it and race hard, he can do that, but he's going to have to do it at the risk of burning off your tires. And at the beginning of the race, it was going to be this thing where guys were going to run really hard, and the guys who ran too hard were going to burn off their tires, and it was going to be a Bristol situation, and they were going to plummet, at the end of that run, and the guys who saved their tires were going to be able to charge forward. That wasn't the case at all. And it was just the complete opposite. And you made a really good point, and I think you're right. This had moments tonight where you're like, okay, this is setting up to be something. Like, you felt like it was just kind of building, right? You had the 3Y with Bell and Hamlin and Logano. You had Larson's late charge there. You're like, oh man, Larson's coming on fresh tires. Like, it's like, all right, here we go. You had end of the stage there. You had Logano and trying to lap Bubba Wallace, and Chris Buescher was closing on him. You're like, okay, and Logano was getting frustrated, and you're like, okay, this could be something too. None of that materialized though. It just kind of fizzled out quickly, and it was like 4 or 5 laps after a restart, everybody just kind of settled in, and it was more of what we've seen on short tracks, which is it's really hard to pass.
Yeah, I think what really crystallized it with the tire was, so Larson puts on those tires, 50 lap fresher tires, right?
Mm-hmm.
The option tire. And he starts charging through the field and he gets to third. And you're like, oh boy, he's got 50 lap fresher tires. It's going to be, this is it. Like, this is where they're going to really make a difference.
Yep.
And like, they immediately just sort of like plateaued or something. And he actually lost a spot and finished 4th. And he never made up that ground again.
No.
So you're like, okay. I mean, what was the whole? Now, I think, let's just say this, okay? For what it was sort of billed as, it didn't work. No. But I do think that this was possibly a step in the right direction again, where they can keep go. Like, forget the multiple options in 2 different compounds for a minute, right? If they just bring that tire that they had tonight, the red tire, and they bring it to another short-ish track, like a Phoenix, or it looks like you have a big bug in there or something.
No, the air conditioning keeps turning on. I didn't know if it was irritating or not.
No, I can't even really hear it.
Oh, perfect.
You're just distracting me. Anyway,
sorry.
Let's say they bring this tire to New Hampshire, Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
Richmond. I don't know. And this again was a repave, right? So it's a little bit. This might not be. And it was at night, and it seemed like in practice, in the daytime, the tires
Mm-hmm.
and they were blistering during practice. So, maybe if they get a daytime race at like a New Hampshire or whatever you want to say, they try this tire there. Maybe this is sort of like that direction. But if this was like as soft as Goodyear could sort of make it, I mean, wasn't this essentially the rain tire without the rain, the wet weather treads? I mean,
Yeah, essentially that's the best way to describe it. And then what they used at Richmond those first 30 laps was kind of the genesis of what they used tonight.
So yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like, why wasn't that? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I don't know.
It's frustrating though.
Yeah, it was. I just feel a little bit like I don't know, disheartened is the right word, but you kind of got excited about it and you thought maybe this is the answer. Maybe they've really found something here, and they're really trying this and they're really trying to go this direction. They've heard everybody, and it still doesn't really, do what everybody wanted it to do. So, I just feel kind of, honestly, I just kind of, the emotion I feel about it is I just kind of feel bad for everybody because it's not, to me, it's not like incompetence or something. It's people and it's not listening to the fans or something, or the drivers. Like everybody tried, NASCAR tried, Goodyear tried. And they thought that they, had something, and it didn't work. So I guess it's sort of back to the drawing board, but at least, I mean, they can keep going in this direction, I guess. But, I mean, first of all, you have anything else to say about the tires? Because I want to make another point, but
yeah, I feel like, and I wrote about this week, and I really, and while this may not have been the home run everybody was kind of hoping for, or at least a double even, I do feel like this is the direction you have to go. I feel like we're on the right step. Would we have loved to have seen more fall off tonight? Absolutely. And there's maybe a lot of factors in why that didn't happen, and you listed them, but I feel like we're on that path at least. And Goodyear is really trying. Like I'm not trying to be a homer here for Goodyear, but they genuinely do understand like softer tires is the way to go. They've listened to the drivers. They've talked to NASCAR. They are going that direction. It just didn't happen the way they kind of anticipated tonight. But I guess the message is don't give up. Like this is it. You made a little bit of progress tonight. There was moments. Continue down this path and figure it out. And you go back to Richmond, and Richmond after that first 30 lap stint, that was a night race, and then it kind of was typical Richmond. And here also night race, and I think that's got to be looked at as well.
So another point I wanted to make was, I think what we saw tonight also kind of goes back to, again, it's not the racetracks. It's not the short tracks themselves. And the reason I say that is because, look, there was a lot of skepticism about this repave. I mean, there was that big patch even in turns 3 and 4. And, I think people were worried that the track was going to come up at some point early. I mean, there was, right?
The track was great. Yeah, I mean, there was serious concerns about the track coming up, and the track did a great job. And the Truck Series race, to me, emphasized like this is a good facility. This is a good racetrack.
And that's just it, right? Because this may go down. I mean, like, I'm not trying to do too much hyperbole here, but in terms of repaves, which usually, mean a one groove track for years, and the first few races after those repaves absolutely suck. This might be the greatest repave in NASCAR history for all the skepticism that was going to be about it, because they created a multi-groove track at the first race after a repave. That is absolutely astounding. I mean, we were all ready to, be like, Marcus, Steve Swift, SMI, this race that's repaved like Sonoma, right? I mean, what a great job. They killed it. I mean, they did a fantastic, you couldn't ask for a better repave than this. To
They
see
did a great
drivers
job.
be able to run side by side
Mm-hmm.
relatively evenly. I know they couldn't pass, but again, that's not the track's fault.
This
That's
is a
not the
car thing.
track.
This is a
Right.
car thing. The track is good. The track showed the truck series, and I know Corey Heim won kind of comfortably, but like the racing was great there. Tonight it wasn't that. It wasn't North. This isn't a North Wilkesboro problem, and this goes back to the bigger thing we always talk about, though, which is if you continue to have races on like short tracks, though, it's going to be really hard, really increasingly hard to separate short tracks from the short track package, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And it's like it's not short tracks; it's the package. And if you have the right package, you've got a bevy of tracks across the board: Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond, here. Other places, Iowa, you're going to have great races, and you just need to hit that right sweet spot. And that's the struggle right now, is how do you do that?
Respectfully, though, I don't really think it's the package. I wouldn't really describe it as a package anymore, because they've tried multiple short track packages.
So it's the car.
It's the car. That's what
the car. Yeah, that's fair. You're right. It's the car.
It's the car. So, it seems like the solution is going to continue to lie with the tires. And can they get those soft enough or whatever you want to do? Obviously, they thought they were there tonight, and it didn't turn out that way. So, you bring something else back. But until that, it is the car, I guess. And it's really so jarring and glaring, because I bet if you go back to our podcast over the last, I don't know, couple months, right, where we were all we're on a high to start the season, right, and then you get to Coda, and you get to Martinsville. Bristol obviously was great because the tire wear. You get to Richmond, Dover. We're talking about air blocking, and then all of a sudden Kansas comes up and Darlington comes up, and we're like, oh, it's everybody's woohoo. Yeah. Everybody's positive again. Oh, the racing's great.
It was a nice 2-week respite of not having to talk about all of that stuff.
And then it's, it just reaffirms how much right now is how this car handles on different tracks.
Yeah.
The great news is the Coke 600's next week. So
yeah,
I bet we'll be in a good mood after that. But yeah, it's just like, man, I just, I don't know what do you do at this point? I mean,
to me, like I feel like you have done what you can with the car in terms of the rules and the package, right? You've done this, and I will not sit here and pretend that I'm some technical wizard. So I just don't want to sit here and say, oh, we need to take off the diffuser and this, and I've heard it all. I know there's pros and cons of, hey, should you eliminate shifting, more horsepower? Like there's a bevy of things, but everything you throw out there, there's also a reason why you can't do it. And I, but again, to me, this comes down to tires. It really feels like that's the most straightforward thing, where if you can figure out a tire that has significant fall off after 50 laps, 60 laps, that is going to give you the best opportunity to create good, solid racing where you've got comers and goers, and you're going to reward the drivers and their skill set who know how to manage tires. We saw it at Bristol. We saw it in those 30 laps at Richmond. Like that is it. That's the sauce. Now you've got to go do it. It's a lot harder to do than say, obviously, but I just feel like the way the box you're in with this car, like, I don't know what else you can do. To me, tires is the most straightforward way to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Jordan, there's, as we mentioned, the Coke 600 is coming up, and I want to make sure everybody knows that JRM Fan Day, along with the Dirty Mo people, I'm not going to be there because I'm going to be in Indianapolis, but you are going to be there.
I am.
This Thursday, right? May 23rd.
I am going to be there on Thursday, and I'm hosting a game show.
Yes, it starts. You're the Dirty Mo game show with you and Andrew Curlin.
Yeah.
Starts at 10 a.m. What are you going to be doing with your game show? So
I talked to Andrew today, and we kind of ran down things. It sounds like we're going to do like a newlyweds game. We're going to do a family feud type game.
Perfect for you, Jordan.
Yeah.
Newlywed game.
Well, I'm going to. Why are you guys married again? You think so? I've got a good divorce attorney. Let me hand you this business card. That's great.
I I wish I could fly from Indianapolis just for this, but
Yeah. What else? We're gonna do a trivia thing. We're gonna have like people are gonna try to go one-on-one against me for NASCAR trivia.
oh no, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, pack a lunch.
I'm telling you, don't even try.
No, it's no.
I really
So
don't think you can be beat.
I'm not gonna say that, but like I'm gonna win more than I'm gonna lose. Let's put it that way. So we're gonna do some other games. It's gonna be fun. I was like kind of skeptical. I'm like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do here? How's this gonna work? But no, we got some cool things, and we ran down the list and a lot of interactive stuff. So come on out, check it out. It's gonna be fun and be a good time.
So that's it. That's at 10 a.m.
Yep.
Door bumper clear, at least with Freddie and Brett and Casey, is going to be at 11:15, and then 1:45 is going to be the DJD Reloaded with Carla, Mike, TJ. They're going to be talking about early years of Dirty Mo, old stories, all that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be
fun,
pretty cool day. So yeah,
maybe we'll see you. Maybe we'll get a married couple divorced. It'll be kind of fun, exciting.
I don't think that's a good selling point, but
well, we're helping them see the light, possibly.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing we need to tell you about, of course, is the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge. It's back for year 2 before it becomes the NASCAR bracket. But the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge is back for year 2. Just like last year, the Bracket Challenge will feature the top 32 NASCAR Cup Series drivers in points following the Coke 600. And then the 5 races in June. Yes, there's 5 in June. Will make up the head-to-head tournament. So round 1, Gateway. Round 2, Sonoma. Throwing a road course in there. That will be interesting. Round 3, Iowa. Nobody really has any track history.
Nope.
Round 4, the semifinals, New Hampshire. And the finals for the 2 drivers going for it will be June 30th at Nashville. So
fun.
The Bracket Challenge is actually going to open on May 28th, and then it's going to close at 3 p.m. on June 2nd, like right before the race at Gateway. That's Sunday. So anyway, follow Dirty Mo social channels or visit dirtymomedia.com to stay updated. And hopefully you and I will do brackets as well, and
be good.
Have a good time with it.
It's a great idea. Yep. Kudos for Denny Hamlin for coming up with it. And you know what? Trendsetter, because it was such a good idea. NASCAR's now doing their own thing in 2025.
Yeah. And Denny said he'll get his commission when he wins the 1 million in 2025. So
that'll be good. By the way, next year's when they have the tournament, though, they're starting that at Atlanta. Like that's just
wild, huh?
That's gonna be wild. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be like the 5-12 matchup in the NCAA tournament. We're just gonna have upsets galore.
I think it's gonna be more than 5-12. You're gonna have some like 15-2 seed kind of thing going on. Maybe even a 16-1. You know?
Yeah, somebody's gonna be Virginia, and somebody's gonna be what was it, Maryland something, or I forgot what it was.
UMBC.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. So what do you make, Jordan, of a Ford Joey Logano on a short track winning this race?
I thought it was really interesting, his comments in the post-race press conference, and he pointed to a tire test that he did here, 5-6 weeks ago or whatever it was. He said he did about 800 laps, and they said they came here and they were able to just work on their race car, before they started doing all the hard nuts and bolts of, tire testing. They were able just to do dry runs and kind of test, fine tune and say this works and this works. And he's like, that was a really key thing for us. And we took things, this is a short track, but there was things we learned we were able to apply elsewhere. And to me, I immediately thought back to the conversation we've had in the show and to 2 years ago when Logano at Homestead tire test learned something from that, and that catapulted him to the championship. And it's like this, they are really, really good at taking advantage of this opportunity to work on their race car and to hone it. And I asked him about that, and he's like, Paul, it starts with Paul Wolf, and we just have this mentality of we're grinding it out. We're going to put the time in, and we're going to try things. And I think it speaks to them and it bodes well for them going forward that they could maybe figure this out a little bit. And there's a lot of things that go into this, but we talked about more horsepower, and Ford maybe doing something in their engines and everything. But there's other facets of this as well, and it seems like they have certainly hit on that as well. I think this is an incredibly encouraging sign. And on the other side of this equation, I don't. This is a cliche, and I know that people are going to kind of push back on this a little bit because it's an exhibition race. I think this is a statement in a lot of ways because Logano's on the wrong side of the playoffs this year on the cut line. He's not had the great year. It's been up and down. We know Ford's problems. And listen, and I'm guilty of this I have said this, like you look at their season last year, one win, right? At Atlanta on the super speedway. They've kind of been forgotten about, and they haven't had the performance that you would associate with a two-time champion, and it's been missing. And I think this was a really good statement of, hey, when we're on it, we're on it. And yeah, it's tough to pass and short track package this and whatever. At the end of the day, they came out here, they won the pole, they led all but one lap, and they left with the $1 million prize. Like, I think that serves a reminder of, hey, we're still pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you said, he's 17th in points with one top 5 finish all year long, and then he comes out and dominates this race, leads all but one lap. So, I don't know about saying it's a statement though, because this was a different kind of qualifying format, and
sure.
I don't know, but at the same time, I mean, it was a short track race, and Buescher again had a good run. That's another Ford. Blaney had a top 5 run.
Mm-hmm. Larson was in the mix.
Well, I was talking about Fords, but
I'm sorry.
But yeah, so you have 3 Fords and Larson and Hamlin, which are the ones we've been talking about all year anyway. So we'll keep an eye on those Fords. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, I get that, but overall, like you look at the guys who are in the mix tonight: Larson, Hamlin. Let's throw Busch in there too because he's running really, really well lately. Like those guys were good, and Logano went on and beat them, and that says something. And I know it's an exhibition and all of these things, but he still went head to head with the best drivers out there that have been the best this year and beat them. And I will say this too. Like, look at the schedule it sets up the next couple weeks. Like, we're going to Gateway. There's some similarities between Gateway and this track. Then you're going to Iowa, a 3/4 mile racetrack. There's a lot of similarities between here and there. Like, you can pull things from here and apply it the next few weeks. New Hampshire, maybe even as well. Like, for a driver who's on the wrong side of the cut line, that opportunity to get that win is going to be there.
What do you know? What happened to? I missed it. Something. Christopher Bell finished 17th. Last car on the lead lap, but he was up there fighting, for the win at one point, or fighting for the lead.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I don't know what happened there. I don't
Sorry.
know if that was ever covered. I don't remember anything that happened. I'm sure somebody out there knows, but yeah, that was kind of weird. Anyway, anything else from this race? You want to talk about the good race poll, or what should we do?
Sure, let's do it. Stupid poll.
So Big Joe Wall, our friend who is keeping track of all this, has texted me the results. So you obviously you missed it last week.
I did.
Sorry about that.
No, and it deserved to be. It's a stupid poll.
So I've now winning 8-6 on this season, but more than that, my streak of being within 5 percentage points is what he believes to be possibly a record. 7 races in a row I've gotten within 5%.
Oh, wow. Goody.
However, I got to tell you, Jordan, there is probably no way that I'm getting within 5 percentage points this week because I have no idea what people are going to say. I mean, this could be anywhere from 30 to 65 or something. Like, I really don't know. This is a really bad week to go first for me. And there's really great.
Boo-hoo.
Well, I'm just saying there's really not great history, right? Like on how to judge this. Because if you look back at last year's North Wilkesboro race, a lot of it was inflated by, Larson dominated that race. Like it was a total butt kicking, right? But a lot of that was inflated by the good vibes of being back at North Wilkesboro in the first place. That race, by the way, got a 49.8%. Typically, all-star races do not perform very well. As you know, in the 2022 all-star race, the second one at Texas, got the single worst rating ever in the good race poll. Out of 313 races, 11% of people said that was a good race. The year before that, another Texas All-Star race, people said 51.5%. So 51.9% for the Bristol one during the pandemic. I keep going here. I mean, the All-Star races do not get good ratings. Well, okay, here was a good one. 2019, that got 91%. The last one on the Charlotte Oval, I believe. But anyway, my point is, for the most part, these all-star races, not great. This one, I don't see it going spectacularly. So how do I put this? I mean, there was no passes. The tire didn't do what people thought it was going to do. However, there was a fight. I don't know if people really judge.
I was curious about that, like how that's going to impact everything.
I think people will go, that was good that there was a fight, but that was after the race. It's not part of the race, they'll say, or something. Anyway, yeah, I'm actually going to say I've talked myself into 35%. Pretty low. I know.
But you're probably right though. Like it's just there's not much redeeming. Can I real quick? I should maybe mention this earlier. You talked about North Wilkesboro and I want to mention the crowd tonight was fantastic. There was a lot of questions going in here. Year 2 in North Wilkesboro, was the energy and the excitement going to be here? Because last year was electric, right? And I will tell you, I thought it was a great crowd. Like I don't know if it was sold out or not, but it looked jammed packed. Before the race, we're talking like 45 minutes to an hour before the race, like they're singing, like they're playing music over the PA, and they're like sing-along songs, and like people are getting into it. Like really cool to see. Like just awesome atmosphere. Like you're on pit road. We talked about Miami a few weeks ago, right? And like the energy and stuff. I'm trying, it's a little apples to oranges, but it did feel like a big deal. Like it was like, okay, this is really cool. Like this is awesome. It didn't feel, I don't know what the crowd number is here, but it felt even bigger than that. So kudos for everybody coming out again and making this a big deal. And this didn't feel like a lot of times with, these new races, year 2, you're like, okay, kind of over it, right? Not at all the case here in North Wilkesboro. You're like, cool, year 3, bring it back. Let's do it.
Oh, interesting. That's good to hear. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I know you'll be writing about that on The Athletic, and
Yep.
I'm obviously in Indianapolis, and we'll have a lot of Indianapolis 500 coverage coming up this week, including 12 questions with Kyle Larson, which
kind of a big deal this week, by the way. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yes. And man, I tell you what, this 12 questions, he was really good. He happens to read, he says he reads every single 12 questions. So he knew the questions in advance. And so he had thought through his answers and had some really good anecdotes. And he's told this story that I've never heard about Joey Logano cussing him out in the motorhome lot after a Daytona 500.
Oh, wow.
It was hilarious. Yes. I'm telling you, this alone, I really want you to hear this, Jordan. So, or read it. So that will be coming out, I believe, Tuesday on The Athletic. You can go to theathletic.com/NASCAR, or I guess now with our new address, because the New York Times owns us, we've switched over to their domain. So it's like nytimes.com/athletic/NASCAR maybe, or something. I should.
Yeah, you go to New York Times website, you click on the sports section, that'll take you to us, or take you to our sports department.
So yeah, I have some articles coming up I'm excited about this week. Like one is I have talked to some motorsports legends about Kyle Larson, his place in history. I know people are making a lot of that right now, but I mean, it's been pretty cool because I got to chat with Mario Andretti about it, Rick Mears, Jeff Gordon, people like that. And, just talk about what he's doing. And so let's talk about what he's doing, right? Because
real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
I didn't make a guess in the good race poll.
Oh, do you need to do that, Jordan?
I suppose. I was thinking, I'm like, if I don't guess, can I just claim the win? I'm like I was really conflicted. I got to be honest with you. I was really, really conflicted. I'm like, if I let this go and no one like says anything and like until tomorrow after the poll's out, I'm like, oh yeah, it's 42. I was gonna guess
How did we just
42.
breeze? How did I just breeze over?
Oh, because I thought you were talking about North Wilkesboro and I wanted to give North Wilkesboro a
Oh, that's
shout
right.
out.
You said real quick. Let me shout
I
out
just
North.
yeah, but it was important to do that. I want to make sure we didn't gloss over that because I
You
think
could
it's
have
important.
guessed first and then done that before I got.
Well, you know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not a
past
trained.
midnight. It's past midnight. I've been up since
Oh, good
7:30
Lord.
a.m. because I had to be at the track. You know,
Oh,
whatever.
poor baby. My alarm
Well,
went
I mean,
off at
I don't know
6:30.
races. Okay, well,
I had to
anyway,
drive 2 hours. You don't hear me complaining. I got to drive
anyway,
2 hours home.
well, I mean, that's what they have energy drinks for. I don't know. What do you want me to do?
It'll be fine. 42%.
42%. So I said
42%.
35. You're saying 42.
Yeah.
Man,
42.
I bet some people. I'm not looking at the YouTube chat right now. We're on live on YouTube. Can't see the chat, but I bet some people have been screaming in the chat saying, "Wait, Jordan didn't guess," and I was just gonna breeze on.
I know. I was really, like I said, I thought about like, oh, if I don't put a guess in, maybe I can run this out until tomorrow.
You could win by default. Yeah, just
that's what I was thinking. But you know, I'm an honest player of the game, Jeff. That's what I do.
So honest. So honest. Yes.
Yeah.
Pinnacle, pillar of honesty is you. I don't even believe you when you send me your connections.
Okay, that really bothers me, by the way. Like every time you send me your connections.
Hold on. So there's on NYT Games, New York Times Games. There's a game called Connections. I don't know how many of you play it out there. It's sort of like Wordle, those kind of games. And Jordan claims to be so good at this that he's never sent me a failing grid on this game. You get how many guesses? You get 4 guesses.
4 guesses, and I have literally told you. I said no. I struck out today. I didn't do well. Or I got 1 wrong. I got 2 wrong. I even said that this week.
Right. Yeah. You'll say I got 1 wrong, but you won't ever say that you failed it, which I fail it sometimes. And I
don't fail. I'm sorry. I refuse to fail, Jeff. Mind over matter.
I have other friends that I play this with, and sometimes we'll both fail it and say, "Oh, there's no way we're getting this thing." And I'll say, "Let me ask Jordan. Let me ask Jordan and see." And you'll say, "Oh, I got a perfect grid." And I'll say, "Oh,
sorry?
really, Jordan? Did you really?
I
show your work."
I show you my work. I send you my work, and you're like, "Oh."
I think you made it up and just sent me a copy of another one and changed the numbers on there. I don't believe you. I don't. Oh.
Okay. So my credit as a journalist, as a reporter, I report on things, and I have not been inaccurate in anything I reported. And now I feel like you're questioning my integrity, which people are going to start questioning my integrity when it comes.
I came over to your house and we played Jeopardy, and you
kicked your butt.
Cheated at that.
I kicked your butt.
You cheated. You knew when the buzzer was going to be, and I tried to buzz it in.
That is literally the foundation of Jeopardy. Like talk to anybody who's on the show. It's not about everybody who's on Jeopardy knows the stuff. It's about when to buzz in.
And you know you're counting in your head, and you know when it is.
So I'm smart, and I count right up.
That's cheating, just like you cheat on the poll. Just like you cheated Connections, which I haven't been able to prove yet.
Okay, this is okay. Now you're hitting a button. Okay, we are moving on because this is yeah.
I'm glad I triggered you. Now you'll be so mad that you won't need an energy drink to drive back home 2 hours.
Next time I report something, like, oh no, that's inaccurate because you cheated on the good race poll.
You're inaccurate. I just said you're rigging the game a little bit. That's all. Anyway. Someone who's not rigging the game is Kyle Larson. That's the transition there.
That's good. Work on that.
At Indianapolis, man, I tell you what, and I know people, I see it in the replies. Look, probably 90% of the people are like, this is a really cool story. We don't mind hearing about this. We'd like to hear more updates about this. But some people are like, God, shut up about Kyle Larson. What is the big deal? Who cares about the Indy 500? Seriously, I mean, it's like, but
why? Just ignore them.
Well, but I'm just letting you know, like, I cannot emphasize enough how well this is going for Kyle Larson. I mean, the degree of difficulty at Indianapolis, and I know I saw people in my replies today who were tuned into Indy 500 qualifying for the first time in their lives, and they're getting to see the thrill and the drama of this, of pole day and of bump day, and hear Lee Diffie's great calls, by the way.
Oh, so good.
Makes you very, very excited for him to be on the NASCAR broadcast for the playoffs this fall. He's a, he just builds the drama, and he's had some sensational calls at Indy this week. But what Larson is doing, having never been in an IndyCar race before, has been not even knowing whether he was going to be comfortable in these cars, and going the fastest, by the way, he's ever gone in a race car, topping 240 miles an hour down the straightaways, figuring all this out. He's got to, adjust his weight jacker on his steering wheel and do all these buttons and knobs while he's driving 240 miles an hour. And he's going toe to toe with these IndyCar drivers who are absolutely elite talents, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he has more oval experience than they do, for sure. But to jump in, we all know, he can jump in on any car and do well. But I mean, the guy, to even make the fast 12, people are like, wow, that is, they were really nervous. Could he even do that? Right. That was an achievement. And then to make the fast 6. Wow. I mean, and again, I know he has a good car, but 2 of his teammates didn't make the fast 6 in those same cars. He's qualified 5th for the Indy 500. He's going to start in the second row of the Indy 500. The entire front row is the very strong Penske cars, the 3 Penske drivers. There was really no way he had the speed to beat them. The only person he got beat by was his teammate Alexander Rossi, who, by the way, has won the Indy 500 and
should have won another Indy 500 too.
Has been a Formula One driver, and kind of grew up with Larson a little bit in Northern California, and thinks so highly of Larson that he said it's an honor and privilege to be his teammate. So Larson has, adjusted himself very well over there. Everybody, the media people, the IndyCar staffers, the drivers, everybody's very excited he's there. He's said yes to everything. He doesn't come in with any sort of attitude. I don't want to do this media again. I mean, they do a lot of media over there. I mean, every day they're talking, and they do long sessions too. Not like we have in NASCAR where they come in for a few minutes, once a week, maybe, right? Like, and they say, oh, we don't want to do this. Larson is doing everything. He's doing all the obligations. He's doing everything he's asked, with a great attitude. And what's crazy about it too is, like, he just seems so unfazed by it all. Oh, he goes that fast in a car, and it's like, yeah, honestly, didn't even really seem that fast as I thought. Or like he says, that they're talking about the pressure. Oh, it's actually not as bad, kind of thing, right? He did kind of finally admit today, like, after they kept making more qualifying runs and trying to find more and more speed, he was like, I really don't, you usually gear up your head to make one qualifying run, and that's all you got, and it's harder to have to find more and more out of it and try to get more on the edge. But he didn't wreck. He didn't throw it away. He didn't try to be a hero, right? With all these people in his face and all the spotlight. But again, so what I was going to say is, like, so he'll do all this, right? And you'll think, man, like, everybody wants a piece of him right now. And then, like, yesterday, he kind of gets done, and it was when his car had shut off on the first qualifying attempt on Saturday, and it was like, uh-oh, there goes his qualifying spot. He had a good qualifying draw. It's out the window now. Now he's probably not going to qualify well for the Indy 500, and they don't know what happened with his car. And so he ends up walking off pit road by himself through Gasoline Alley to the McLaren offices. It's sort of like the pit. They're kind of near the garages, but not quite the garages. It's kind of like in this pit building. Anyway, he didn't have any, like, John Edwards, his PR wasn't with him. Team people weren't with him. He just walked by himself. And so as soon as he walks through Gasoline Alley, all the fans are like, oh my gosh, Kyle Larson. And he gets one of those Dale Jr.-esque mobs around him.
Mm-hmm.
And he just signs and takes photos. I mean, all the way. He probably signed in a span of 100 yards or something, probably, I mean, easily 100 autographs and pictures and stuff. I mean, he was just like, it wasn't like, get me on a golf cart, I'm going here. He just walks through the crowd at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where he's like all the eyeballs are on him. He's just so normal and down to earth. And this just suits him so well. And it's really cool to see everything that's happened. I mean, what's been the impression over there about what he's been doing?
Remarkable. I mean, people across the board are just are amazed that he's been able to do this. Not that they're surprised, because they all know how incredibly talented he is. But I think one is that he's getting this opportunity finally, and two, he's really showing the world like how good he is. And I think, there's a perception that, NASCAR drivers, often feel like they get slighted, worldwide in terms of their ability. And all you do is turn left, right? You hear that a lot. And you look at the schedule, you look at the challenges over here. This is to me is one of the hardest forms of racing in the world, and you've got to be good on a variety of different tracks and a variety of different styles. And for Larson to excel over here and then go do that and have the success, I don't think people. It's almost unfathomable of the guy can do this and do it so well without making a mistake. Like, that's the thing. Like, he hasn't had even a bobble, I don't think, from what I've seen and on the track and reading your coverage. It's like everything is like perfect for him. And it's remarkable to see him do this. And today, he comes in, lands the helicopter, and people, as soon as the helicopter comes into view, people are like cheering and like they're into it. And the helicopter lands, he gets out of the helicopter, large cheer, right? And he hops on the golf cart, because the helipad is outside the racetrack, and comes in the racetrack. And as soon as he crosses over the gate to get onto the track and in the infield, large cheer, comes up. And you're like, wow, like, that's, you mentioned Dale Earnhardt Jr.-esque mob, and like that's what I thought of, was that is like a Dale Jr. type reaction, and then the driver intros happen, and they introduce him, and and the whole 2021 Cup Series champion, Cup Series point leader, Indy 500, today qualified 5th, and this huge cheer comes up, and it's like, whoa, like there's appreciation of like, it feels like NASCAR fans are like, that's our guy. He's representing us, and he's showing everybody like, hey, this isn't easy over here. We're just not turning left. This is a hard form of motorsport, and it seems like people are really behind him. And I was on the grid today, and I don't remember who it was, but someone mentioned to me, and they said, you know what? I bet you Kyle Larson wins most popular driver this year. And I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? Like, Chase Elliott's getting some boos now for whatever reason during the pre-race ceremonies. You hear that more and more now. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe. Like, it's not on. It's not. I could see it.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen someday. It is going to happen someday. Larson is going to win most popular driver. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but it's going to happen someday, because he's building his brand in such an authentic and organic way. And it's not, here's the thing about it. It's not, and this is what is very rare, because most popular driver has been largely based on people's, they like their personality, or they like, this or that, right? Larson is just doing it with his racing. People are just gravitating toward his ability and just like the awe of what he's been able to do. He lets the racing do the talking, because otherwise he's just like, I always just sort of describe him as like the walking shrug emoji, right? He's just like,
yeah,
like he just doesn't really get fazed by anything. He's not too high, not too low. He's pretty just even, and he's just very humble and normal. He doesn't think he's a big deal. We talked about it in the 12 questions coming up. He's like, I don't really think of myself as a big deal. So he's not going to come in with swagger and all this stuff and be outrageous or something, or say crazy things. And he just lets the racing do the talking. So what's really interesting for me has been, so obviously the last person to do the double was Kurt Busch in 2014. And I was on the NASCAR side of the coverage back then. In other words, I was covering the Coke 600.
Yeah.
So, you see him come in, and you watch Indy 500 on TV, and then he, he comes in the helicopter and all that stuff. You're like, cool. Last one before that, I think, was Robbie Gordon in 2004. I was covering races in 2004, but I don't believe I was at that Coke 600. Well, maybe I was actually. Anyway, but either way, I wasn't at the Indy 500. And so being on this side at the Indy 500 and being sort of a NASCAR guy, right? And then you have a NASCAR guy invading that world. It's very cool for me to see somebody from NASCAR come in and do that, because it's like, it's such a different dynamic there. Like everything is different. And I know it's, it's still an American racing series and stuff, but it just feels, you don't really feel like what's going on there necessarily. There's different terminology and different flow of things and different rhythm. And so for him to just be able to parachute in and do what he's been able to do and make it look so easy, it's amazing. And I also just think the better he does and you alluded to this, right? But like the better he does, the more NASCAR's brand rises, because you look at it and you go, wow, this guy is truly, truly a generational talent, one of the best in the world. You had this great essay on FS1 before the race today where Mario Andretti is basically, linking himself with Larson and drawing that connection. And you're like, this is the modern Mario Andretti, perhaps, or the modern AJ Foyt.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Stewart was close to that as well. And you go, man, I mean, NASCAR's lucky to have this kind of a talent in their series. And it makes you appreciate the other NASCAR drivers, because guess what? Larson doesn't always win. Denny Hamlin beats Larson sometimes. And if Larson is like the best guy, one of the best drivers in the world, well, hey, what does it say about these other drivers in the series? So the more Larson's profile rises, the better it is for NASCAR as a whole. His brand growth is great for NASCAR's brand growth. It makes everybody feel like it's elite. And that's a really, really positive, good thing. And I'm glad to see that NASCAR's embraced it. You can see it on their social channels.
Yes.
They're all about it. IndyCar's all about it.
They're writing about it on NASCAR.com.
It's
our friend Nate Ryan's doing it.
That's great.
And they should, because you're right. Like, it's good for them. It's best to say, hey, our guys are so good, they can go to the Indy 500 and show up as rookies who've never had a lap in an Indy car and post the 5th fastest time in qualifying and blow everybody doors off, just about. Like, that's impressive. And I think it speaks volumes about that. And it speaks of volumes about Kyle, that he is willing to look foolish. And, you could go over there and crash and have mistakes after mistakes, and he's not doing that. And that just, it says so much about his ability to jump in unfamiliar equipment and have success. And we've seen this throughout his career. Like, and I'm gonna compare an IndyCar to a dirt late model, but he's jumped in a dirt late model, like, with no laps and had success instantly, right? And we've just seen this. It's like, it is incredible how talented he is. And it's, when you say generational talent, and that's the best way to describe him, it almost feels like you're not giving him enough credit, because like, he deserves to be on that pantheon of the Foyts and the Andrettis. And I know his resume isn't as robust to them and everything like that, but like, I'm sorry, but like, pound for pound, when it comes to talent, he's right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see, we'll see what happens in the race, obviously, and see what happens next week. But
that's,
I'm glad to see that it feels like when you saw him today come into North Wilkesboro and you saw the helicopter land and him riding on the golf cart, and there was this fascination. And it was the same thing in Indy, right? Like watching him go to the motorcade to whisk him away and stuff. Like, that sort of builds up this extra aura about it. Like, man, this guy is special. Where normally, again, it's part of his personality, but he's so humble and down to earth and just wants to be the guy that can fit in at the dirt track and just kind of is one of everybody else, right? You don't get that like wow factor when you're around Kyle Larson, because he's just like, it's just, I'm not a big deal. It's not a big deal. So don't make a big deal out of me. You know what I mean? Like, he's just that kind of dude. So I think it's kind of cool to see him in a different light, where you're like, man, whoa, there's some just cool. This is special here. This is really neat what's happening. So very much looking forward to next week, because look, could he win the Indy 500? I mean, you certainly can't rule it out. The Penske's are going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
Larson, one thing he does not have very much race running in traffic.
That's the thing.
He got, his Thursday really got sidetracked. And then they switched over to Fast Friday qualifying setup. So Monday, for those, depending on when you're listening to this, they are going to have practice in race running. And it is the last practice until Carb Day, Friday. So, this is sort of like one of the last great chances he'll have to really learn traffic, but he doesn't really know how to time runs and make passes yet. Right. And that's going to be tough to learn on the fly, but if anybody can learn something on the fly,
it's him.
It's Kyle Larson. So we'll see how he does. But then, even no matter what he does in the 500, he's going to be one of the favorites in the 600. I mean, he just parachuted into the All-Star race tonight on a repave with no laps of practice and finished fourth. So, pretty good stuff.
When you look at Kurt Busch in 2014, and I was there covering that Indy 500, the thing that Kurt will tell you is restarts really hurt him because he wasn't used to them, and he lost positions on the restart. He had a fast car, he had great racecraft and everything else, but because of the positions and track position, he wasn't able to maximize it. And by the time he would get back to where he was, it was like that gap, it was too much to overcome. And also the other thing too is getting on pit road on green flag stops. And those are really, to me, restarts and green flag and pitting under green. Those are going to be the two big things that are just, it comes down, honestly, it's experience, it's reps, it's knowing what to do. And until you do it, it's really hard to replicate it. And that, to me, is going to be the big difference. But we saw Fernando Alonso in 2017 come in here too. And again, he restarts were a little bit of his hiccup there. And then he kind of figured it out as the race went on. And if he doesn't blow a motor, he probably wins that race. So like, you're right. Like, if anybody can figure this out on the fly and adapt as this goes on, it's going to be Larson. The key is just avoiding mistakes and not putting yourself in a bad position. So that way you continue to get experience. And then at the end of the race, you're in the mix.
Well, it's going to be a fun weekend ahead. It's a big week, as you mentioned. You're going to be at JRM Fan Day, so go out and see Jordan there. NASCAR Hall of Fame voting is Tuesday. Some of the candidates include Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle, Jeff Burton, Neil Bonnet. So it'll be interesting to see.
I do not envy you at all, by the way.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what class gets selected. We'll see what happens with all that.
Because you look at last year, right? It was like Jimmy Johnson, Chacanow, slam dunks, first ballot Hall of Famers, right? Like this year, you look at the ballot, who jumps out? You can make a case for a bunch of different guys, but there's no slam dunks.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see where that comes out. And, hopefully there'll be lots to talk about this week around the motorsports world in general. Of course, at the Athletic as well, we have both of our friends, our F1 writers, Luke Smith and Madeline Coleman, both in Monaco. So we're going to have two people in Monaco, one person at Indy 500, one person at the Coke 600 for Motorsports Christmas coming up next week. And a programming note for you, for those of you who will be looking for this podcast after the Coke 600 on Sunday night. No, we're not going to do that. What we are going to do, and that's on me, honestly.
Yeah. Somebody needs to sleep.
Well, I'm going to be up at 4:30 a.m. for Indy 500. I don't have it in me to stay up, an hour and a half past the end of the Coke 600 to even start the podcast, then do an hour, then edit it, all this stuff. I just don't. So what we're going to try to do, what we'll call our Memorial Day hangover. This will be Monday morning. We're thinking we'll put it on our socials, but we're thinking around maybe 9 a.m. Monday, 8:30, 9 a.m. or something like that. We'll wake up. We'll have fresh minds on everything that happened on Memorial Day Sunday, and you'll all be off work. Hopefully you can join us, have a little Bloody Mary or something, watch along with us here. And
we're drinking too, right?
We are?
I mean, why not? It's Monday morning. Why can't we have a mimosa or a Bloody Mary?
Well, I'm going to be doing it from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so I don't think that would be, I don't know if
I'll get you an Uber home.
I would have to go straight from there to the airport. So, sorry, but.
All right. Can I have champagne?
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be for a very fun
This ought to
podcast.
be fun.
Yeah.
That last time.
Oh, did you just freeze up? Great. Well, I think Jordan just froze up. We made it all this way in the podcast. Jordan freezes up.
I know. I don't. Yeah. Now it's whatever. I think they're telling me I need to leave.
Oh, now there you are. Okay, everybody, that's our plan for next week. Thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Teardown. See you, everybody.